Thank you very much for having me and for having this short discussion with you. So I'm going to present, as Thomas asked me, a little bit of the ideas we have also with blockchain technology. But before that, let me just say that we really live in a world of transitions. We see that, we've seen there's an ecology transition, there's a societal transition, there's a digital transition. There are many others, like the demography transition, especially in the older states here in Europe. And we see that the shift is going really to the east and the south. And so all these forces put together are really building a vortex, and we should really take care of that, and we're hitting ceilings, especially in the energy transition. So first of all, who of you actually lives in Geneva? Okay, so you know us because we provide the electricity, the water, we treat the waste, and that's our main mission. That is, we're a company that is funded by the canton, the city of Geneva, and all the communes. And now we're run as we say, entreprise publique autonome, which means that we run as a company, if you'd like, to render the services in the canton of Geneva. As you see, it's quite a diverse company. We do have a lot of different jobs. First of all, of course, electricity, as I told you, gas, water, but also running the fiber optics, treatment of wastewater, and thermal energy. That's one of the main challenges that we have, is that a lot of the energy that is used for heating is actually coming from fossil fuels. And so in the next years, it's going to be a huge challenge to actually shift that away from fossil fuels. I'll tell you more about that. Our vision since many years, and this is the strategy that we've put in place 4 years ago already, is really to see SIG as also a company that helps not only the energy transitions that we do, and I remind you that in Geneva since 2017, 100% of the electricity is actually renewable, totally renewable. It comes from hydropower, it comes from solar plants. All the electricity that you have in your homes is renewable, and it's mostly local. So, that's already a good first step. And as a vision, we really see the role of this public utility company to become really like a center for the sustainable and connected society of tomorrow. We, after all, run a lot of the services that can be useful in a canton like Geneva. We have the networks below, we have the flows that go in it, then we have the information layer with the LoRa and with the fiber optics, and now we should turn to the social layer to actually help people build a more sustainable neighborhoods and other endeavors. So what is the smart city for us? There's no single definition of course, and it should be defined also by the community itself. But we see it as a resilient and sustainable and really connected city, and not only connected through networks of digital networks, but also human networks. That's the most important part. As a company, we also have lots of experiments going on internally. As you see here, for instance, this is a network that we've put in place for the drinkable water, and with Internet of Things, you can have sensors that actually monitor the quality of the water at the edge of the network, where it's most difficult to have a good quality of water, and with the help also of EPIA, which is the school, the Applied School of Sciences here in Geneva, we actually developed a quite innovative sensor to actually monitor 7 parameters of the water. Another thing is that we do is we have sensors for the analytics in the different stations that we run. And this is more of a social side. Internally in the company, we actually changed the rules since quite a few years now to be able to work more flexibly, because this has quite an impact also on moving people. You know, if you allow people to actually start work a little bit later, this will also diminish the quantity of congestion that you have in a city. And from what we know, even 10% less cars makes the traffic much more fluid in a city. So that's also something we try to foster, is really not only to do that and say, oh, you should do that, it's easier for you, but to apply the rules for ourselves. And that's something that we work on. There are many other projects that are circular in the products that we serve. Let me show you a little bit of them. One of the main projects that we have for heating and refreshing is called Genilac. It's basically taking the water from the lake at 35 meters. At 35 meters under the lake, the water stays at the constant temperature of 7 degrees. And with that temperature, you can either refresh, or with heat pumps, you can basically build power to heat whole neighborhoods. And when the water has finished its circle, it's not that much warmer. You can actually reinject it in the lake. We did also studies to be sure that it doesn't impact the biosphere around. So, you know, this is totally circular heating. And this saves a lot of CO2 emissions for the different neighborhoods. Then, of course, we also have quite a big investment in something that might seem very paradoxical for a company that sells electricity, which is a program to have more efficiency, which is basically using less electricity. So we do that for households, but also companies, associations. We do audits of the electricity usage in a home and say, you know, you could save by changing the lighting of this room, for instance, and putting LEDs in it. And we will help you even to, you know, to invest for that. And why do we do that? Well, you know, first of all, it's good for the environment, but it's also good for the local production of energy, because we only produce 25% of the electricity that we furnish. So, you know, if we can diminish the quantity of electricity that is used, it's even better, and we can sell better products, greener electricity, by using local electricity. I'll skip the other examples, but we have many other examples with mobility and other things like this bus that is also an innovation done with the public transportation and ABB. And it's basically a bus that recharges at each stop. So it's even with 15 seconds, the bus actually charges, and it's running now around the city. It already has it's not a proof of concept. It's really something that works. So we have lots of technologies that are available, as we heard before. There are many things that are coming out. These are just a few examples, of course. And we see really that what is going on is that there is a urban fabric that becomes really a platform for the services of tomorrow. And through the connectivity, it also, you know, through the discussion that we should and have to have with the citizens on what services are more important for you, what is important for the community as a whole. So let me give you a few examples, as I was mentioning before, around blockchain. Of course, blockchain is, you know, all the rage, and you know that those are distributed ledgers that basically can store information in a secure way and a distributed way. So we partnered with other companies in different cantons to actually leverage a foundation also and be part of a foundation called Energy Web Foundation. which is a quite large foundation that works to study an open source scalable blockchain that is specifically targeted for the energy usage. And so with more than 200 use cases, we actually chose 3 to experiment a little further. Let me show you what they are. The first one is the issue and trade of renewable energy certificates. One of the things that we do is that we certify all the energy that comes out of the assets that we have or we buy. And it's quite cumbersome to have every time you generate a kilowatt hour, you should, certify and then go through a whole process to certify that. So one of the things that could be possible with blockchain is basically to say, store the information of who, where, when, and how this kilowatt of energy was produced, and store that, and then you can even trade it, give it to the people that want to know that. It's totally transparent. So that's one of the use cases that we might actually run. Another one is the electrical vehicle charging. There is already an application and a wallet called Share and Charge that uses the blockchain to actually automatize the process for authentication, authorization, the payment, the settlement, which is otherwise quite complicated. And this hides the layer of complexity by, being able to do that more automatically. And the third one is, of course, the peer-to-peer power generation distribution through microgrids. This is something that was really put forward in the news by the Brooklyn microgrid that some of you might have heard. But this is a use case that seems interesting when you see it because it's all over the news. But when you really look at it, it might not be the best one to actually distribute the energy because the city is so dense that we have a network that is much, much better than the one that they have in the United States and especially in New York. So basically we also include that use case. But the question is really at the top of those 3 slides is really we're searching for the value-added use cases. And that's one of the problems that appears is that all this technology is very fun to have and play with, but then when you look at the value, and not only value in the terms of economic value, but I insist, in terms of social value, in terms of ecological value, that's far from easy. That's far from easy. If you put all that together, of course, you could have like a picture like this. You could include vehicle charging. You could include also wastewater and rain storage and reuse of heat, for instance, from wastewater. That's something that we do. And you could have like, a whole blockchain that uses all this data and does analytics about it. That's a kind of a faraway vision. It's not that easy to do this. And once again, does it really have meaning for what we want to do? That's the main question. So one of the drawbacks that you may know about blockchain is really there are many things that still have to be settled. One of the things is, of course, the speed. It's if you have a blockchain like the one on Bitcoin, of course, it's not the same with different blockchains. But the speed of transaction to register a block is not that fast. So if you have to register some of the information and you have to have less than a few seconds, then you might run into some of the problems. Of course, all these problems are you can solve them, but when you put all the things together, it's not that easy. And when you run an industrial company, it's really important that it really works. Privacy, it seems that a blockchain is the solution of the privacy problem, but when you look at it, there have been quite a few problems where people died or lost some of the keys, or the 51% attacks actually that did work. So all these things say that it might be useful, but it might also be not that easy. The main one is really the power consumption. The power consumption is huge. The Bitcoin actually uses more energy than Portugal. So it's totally unsustainable. And basically, we have to change the way that the proof of work works to register the information, and so on and so on. So we have to settle all these things, you know. And recently, you may have seen that, for instance, Windsurf tweeted something about blockchains, saying, you know, that's the simplest flowchart that you see on the left. And sometimes, when you look at it, by, you know, simplifying all the stuff that we want to do, what we really resort to is building the most expensive database that people will have. So that's not what we want. So there are many dimensions. Of course, privacy and fault tolerance is of course important. I'm finished. but when you look at it, when you solve the problem on one side, then you get a problem on the other side. So it's totally not solved. These technologies are, of course, important because they are very spread among society. So we continue to look at them. We know it's important because they can be applied cross-wise. We know that they need social acceptance, and we need to work on that. And I want to finish with this, saying, you know, there is a global transition that is happening, but let's not forget that in the end, we all live on the same planet. And we are hitting the limits of nature. And we should be really, really careful with what we do with technology, because we don't want to destroy more nature than what we already did. Thank you.
Thank you.